There it is. Look, no respect, this motherfucker.
What's that mean? What's that mean?
Cursing.
Hi, my name is Ptsd Robinson. I'm going to talk to you today about the Army and PTSD. I faced the enemy and lived. The death dealers took my life. These were supposed to be the last words of Private Adam Lieberman, written on his wall to his loved ones of the world, as the last attempt of relief from what had become his troubled and disfigured life. However, Private Lieberman lived. Ptsd Alderman, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. Ptsd Alderman, so much like Ptsd Lieberman, tried to overdose on pills and succeeded. And both of these men have a lot in common. You see, both were 21, both served long combat tours, both overdosed on pills, both asked for help, and both were failed by the Army. Sadly, their story is not unique. PTSD has become a major epidemic within the fighting forces every year, and the numbers continue to grow. It's most prevalent in the Army. And because of certain stigmas like soldier up, many soldiers turn away from the help that they need. However, the Army is working to fight back against this stigma and get the soldiers the help they deserve. And one way in which they're doing this is by telling soldiers what PTSD is, its prevalence in the Army, and the resources they have available. So to help the Army out a little bit, I'm going to tell you a little about PTSD. PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is an anxiety disorder that can develop after exposure to a terrifying event or ordeal in which grave physical harm occurred or was threatened. Some of the causes of PTSD are natural disasters like fires or hurricanes, rape, prison stays, abuse, accidents, and in most soldier cases, war. Some of the symptoms of PTSD are re-experiencing symptoms, which is one of the first categories of PTSD. There are flashbacks you have, reliving the trauma over and over again. And you have night terrors, which are a lot like nightmares, only you can't wake up and you're confused and nothing you can do. You started being terrified all the time. Re-experiencing symptoms may cause problems in a person's everyday routine. They can start from a person's own thoughts and feelings. Words, objects, and situations that are reminders of events can also trigger re-experiencing symptoms. Another category of PTSD symptoms is hyperarousal symptoms. These are where you're easily startled or you feel tense or on the edge all the time. You have difficulty sleeping and you have angry outbursts. These symptoms are usually constant and instead of being triggered by an event. And they can make you feel stressed and angry and interrupt all your daily tasks, just like sleeping or eating or even concentrating. Another category of symptoms, which I think is the worst, are avoidance symptoms. These are where you stay away from places, events, people, or objects to remind you of the experience. You start feeling emotionally numb, strong guilt, depression, worry. You start losing interest in all your activities. And for most people, they start self-medicating. So start drinking alcohol, taking a lot of drugs. These are triggered just like hyperarousal symptoms. And it can cause a person to change their entire routine just to avoid an experience trigger. So, you know a little bit about PTSD. Let me talk about how it affects the Army. The Army Surgeon General reported 21,784 cases of non-deployed soldiers with PTSD and 66,935 cases of deployed soldiers with PTSD. Out of these cases, 9% were in the Air Force, 11% in the Navy, 13% were Marines, and the rest, 67% of the total, were in the Army. Sadly, that's not even the worst part. These cases have jumped by 50% in recent years. So what is the Army doing about this? Well, if you know Private Lieberman or Private Alderman, you would say nothing. Their chain of command knew they had a problem and did nothing to fix it. They told them to soldier up, which is a stigma in the Army. So many soldiers are afraid to get help because they're afraid that they're going to look like damaged goods or be garbage. They're afraid that real soldiers do not ask for help, and that asking for help will cost them their job. And just to show how serious the Army really is about people asking for help, an old friend of mine, the Hurt Feelings Report from basic training. A little about the Hurt Feelings Report. When a person has their feelings hurt or they have issues, they have to fill one of these out. And all it says, one of the things it says first is, which ear were the words of hurtfulness spoken into? Then it has a few vulgar reasons, like being thin-skinned, being a woman with hormones, all kinds of stuff for why the person fills the report. Then it says, name of the real man who hurt your sensitive little feelings. And if that's not degrading enough, it has a little bitty paragraph that said, if you feel that you need someone to hug, go home to mommy and let her hug you and change your diaper. If you feel as though you need to speak to someone to soothe you, please call this number, 1-800-CRYBABY. Here. However, though, the Army is working to fight back against this stigma. Those boring things we do, like resiliency training, public service announcement, briefings, and all those things, those are all to fight back against the stigma, soldier up, and to help soldiers get the help they need. Generals are talking about their own mental health issues so that soldiers can see that it's all right to get help. They're also having mandatory health screening at all clinics for whatever appointment you come in at so that you can see if you need help. So, like, if you come in for a twisted ankle, you're going to get a mental health screening. If you come in for a broken arm, you're going to get a mental health screening. And even if you come in just to refill medication, you're going to get a mental health screening. But that's still not enough, because all these things the Army is doing, they're nothing without one vital piece. And that's you guys, the soldiers. The closest person to a person considering suicide is the average soldiers. The battle buddy system was one created to keep accountability between soldiers, but also to create an environment where soldiers felt that they could rely on other soldiers, increasing their likelihood if they had a problem, they could turn to their battle buddies. Things like the ACE card will show what to do if your battle buddy had a mental health issue or was thinking about suicide. By asking your battle buddy, are you thinking of suicide? Caring for them by taking away objects and listening to them, and then escorting them to the proper source of professional help. But still, none of this stuff really matters without one thing. And that's the soldier themselves. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. I know that when I was in Fort Riley and I had went through some really traumatic stuff, I started having real problems. I started feeling jittery all the time. I was scared. I couldn't do anything. I had nightmares. And I had to have a battle with me 24 hours a day, including to the point where someone had to sleep in a room with me. And when I tried to get help, most people just told me to soldier up, that just deal with your problems. And so I did. But only thing is, when I started trying to deal with those problems and not doing anything, just letting them keep going, they just started to get bigger and bigger. And they just started fizzling over. And it all just balled out. And I almost became another private alderman. But thankfully, God sent me some really helpful battle buddies who helped me get the help I needed. And because of that, I'm actually a better soldier, a better person, because I actually reached out for help. And I get to go on mission to get to do all the things that I thought I would never do. And my life has been so much better. So, just a brief overview in conclusion. Ptsd, you know, is an anxiety disorder that people can develop in response to any type of traumatic event, from rape to prison to a war. And it can occur at any age for a multitude of reasons. Also, there's 3 categories of PTSD symptoms: avoidance, hyperarousal, and re-experiencing, which a person may suffer. PTSD is most prevalent in the Army, with a 15% increase in the past 2 years. However, the Army has implemented many programs and procedures for dealing with this epidemic. So really, the only thing that stands between the soldier and getting help is themselves. One of my favorite quotes, you guys, is by a guy named Raymond Hill. It says, "It's important to ask for help when you're needed. Never think that you have to carry your burdens by yourself. The strongest people are those who are humble enough to realize that they cannot do it all on their own, and that they need support and advice from others. Getting help doesn't make you weak or damaged. It makes you stronger and more capable of completing the mission." So just care about PTSD. That's all I'm saying. It's a really serious problem, and it really needs to be taken care of. Thank you.